What's up, guys? Western Po Boy coming at you. I just got up and I got up a little while ago, but I just got out of the tub and I smell sexy. Today, today we're gonna talk about the video topic. If it's so great, why ain't it in cars? If tech that can do better in mileage, emissions, and better, and whatnot, if they work and they're better than what the status quo says the best that we got, why ain't they shit in cars now? A lot of reasons, potentially. There's no exact answer. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, it's this," or "It's these fuckers," "It's that," and mechanics is very popular amongst a lot of mechanics to talk about, like Tom Ogle. Tom Ogle made a fucking pre-vaporizer system with water injection that supposedly got over 100 miles to the gallon, and some say it's debunked, some say it wasn't. And then, if you want to check out a documentary, check out Gas Hole. There's a lot of shenanigans, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of the shenanigans that's been happening for over a fucking century. And it's spicy. So it's fucking nuts is what it is. Anyway, let me go through 3 of the biggest things So I'm just getting this. Sorry, I just sent a message to somebody. Anyway, a lot of people say, well, the car companies are the suppressors. And sadly, they do have cause. There is proof that car companies have bought up and... Oh! It feels so much better. They have bought up and shelved many patents, and I know that most, if not all, the major car companies have practical, drive to work every day type of vehicles that are experimental and have experimental forms of those. Those are the kind of vehicles that the experimental vehicles are. Is what I'm describing to you. That do have absurdly high MPGs. It doesn't make sense to do this though, because say I want to give 3 big examples: Ford, Toyota, or Nissan came out with an 80 mpg full-size car. Who would buy the GM, the Chrysler, the GM, or Volkswagen? That's only 20 to 30 mpg. You know what I'm saying? Now, if it's related to big rigs and shit, and you can only get like 50 to 60 at best, and because of all the trade-offs and such heavy machinery. If that was the case, right? That's fine. There's a lot of trade-offs there. That's understandable. It's fucking diesels. Diesels can get you farther, but when you're pulling a lot of shit and they're used to power drag enormous heavy sons of bitches, you better believe they will be dropping in MPG potential because of the raw weight they're pulling. It's just a given. There's no ifs, ands, or but. That's just a straight up given. It's not a throwing around of the phrase. It is what it is. It absolutely just is what it is, and there's not much can be realistically done right now, anyway, until something crazy new is theorized or invented and actually done. But good luck, we probably might not hear about it. Good fucking luck with that shit, folks. So, but from an economics perspective and a financial perspective, it doesn't make sense because, say Nissan wanted to make a really high mileage, real high MPG, high longevity vehicle, for instance, right? They wanted to do that. Say they wanted to do that, folks. And they wanted to do that. And what they could do to still make a consistent, like, a decent, an income flow that's continuous, right? They could make profit-sharing contract deals with insurance companies, makers of maintenance products, engine lubes, stuff like that. Then, too, they could successfully license their engine designs and stuff to fabricators, machinists, mechanic shops that have the same capabilities, have the capabilities to machine and fabricate these kind of things. And the terms can be guarded through to minimize the incentive for piracy and open sourcing shit through either, non-disclosure agreement contract stipulations, or a concept I thought of a few years ago, like look up 3 or 4 years ago, I think maybe, was limited disclosure agreements. Like, why did no ANCAP make a video of this concept? It's a disclosure limiting condition where instead of a non-disclosure agreement, you're only allowed to disclose very limited amounts of the information pertaining to something. Not enough to really, not enough that they can take and try to replicate, but some info. A limited disclosure contract. And I'm someone who thinks IP is who could back myself up when I say IP is a joke, because it is in principle, and very rarely has it ever been fucking a net benefit to society. And no, I got more citations than through this whole fucking. This book alone's got hundreds of citations on this whole thing, on this whole topic. In fact, hard citations, and copywriting and patenting and stuff. So it's a bit monopolistic now. I'm more lenient to it, about it toward when it comes to companies and people who use it to try to sell digital media to finance themselves, to make more presentations and to finance experiments or another kind of stuff like that. I'm okay. I'm not so hateful to it. I don't like it, but I'm lenient to it, and I'm okay with it because they're doing what they can. Now, again, I got more citations than Razorfist got to ever cite on just this book alone. Plus, I could cite Stefan Kinsella, a patent and IP lawyer, who realized how much of a crock of shit it was. So, as an IP abolitionist myself, I'm saying this. You could do this. You could do these limited and non-disclosure agreements type licensing conditions to fabricators, machinists, and mechanics that have the infrastructure for machining and fabricating of these kind of parts and designs and stuff, this type of tech that you want to sell in your vehicle. And thirdly, as a business, you could do high volume pricing like General Motors did with the LS V8 engines, where you make a bunch of them so the prices stay low, but you still sell them in waves and make a big killing, and then do the production again when people will still have a high demand for the vehicles across, say, a planet or a multitude of countries. Instead of all of them, it could be a multitude of countries. Just like, you know. And then in the business, and then lastly, number 4, from a business perspective, the individual co-owners, if you're a corporate business, the individual business owners that bridge into the total corporate business structure, and the board of director members can individually have assets and other forms of passive income they can put parts of into R&D, which is research and development, for those who don't know what R&D means, and boost the paychecks of their employees while still pocketing plenty for themselves as well. With all these things, it doesn't make any damn sense why a car maker would want to suppress high mileage tech. I nuked the shit out of it just now. I just nuked it into fucking nuked it into the next millennia, alright? So, other people say that oil corporates suppress information, and sadly with some degree of good reason, because oil corporates have bought up patents and shelved them too, and by the time they've been open sourced through expiration, people don't give a fuck because they don't know about it. How could they know about it and know the implications? How could a citizenry give a fuck if they don't know what the thing is, don't know its implications, and don't care enough, right? Cancerous apathy and ignorance are a nasty combination, and that's easy to pull off and let that come away from the market. You know, this stuff like that. So there is that thing. That is a technical issue. That is technically true, but you see the problems here. It's not. But let's say, other people say, like I said, oil corporates have bought up and shelved patents too. It is tech, but then I do see one incentives, as I was saying. There is one incentive, and that incentive seems to be because of the bulk of petroleum products being fuel. So there's an incentive to keep rolling in dosh off of fuel sales. Oil is an enormously lucrative, setup, sales system. But there are massive numbers of different products that come from petroleum. There are even companies I've heard there are companies developing the idea of using oil to make plastic houses. And if it's true, this has a shit ton of merit. The two main issues are, you need to address the microplastics issue that's out everywhere and in the food supply industry and environment in general. Use HDPE number 2, or develop better plastics than it, because it's the most thermally and chemically stable and inert of all the plastics out there. Or if you could develop something better than it before pursuing it further. The idea of plastic housing. If you were an oil company or an oil corporate bridging of individual companies, you could easily have your you could have yourself and others with you, and your board of director members have their assets, other forms of passive incomes, also be put into R&D and boost the paycheck of the employers working on the oil rigs and other various stages of production while still pocketing plenty for yourself. So again, this makes no damn sense. On an oil company perspective, there's so much revenue potential already out there. Same with the damn car manufacturing. That can offset any of the side effects of high mileage. And by the way, the third and last one, the opportunity for oil company is, you could take a part of the oil sales, a fraction of the oil sales dip amount, because you're going to get surplus, right? Because you're not selling, you have surplus. You can take a small percentage of that and take the hydrogen and carbon and turn it into the other products, and then raise the price up just a little bit and make a consistent fucking killing. Just, right? And it's done. It's just done. So there's no incentive on its own. to do this. This is episode 1 of If It's So Great, Why Ain't It in Cars Now? I'm going to end it here, and then I'm going to episode 2, and I'll see you soon. Because in that episode, there are some clues. A series of factors to consider in this whole subject that will point you, like it did me, into certain directions. And they're not good. But before I go in this episode, the last thing, the third one I want to address is the notion of vested interest. Look, governments and vested interests don't run each other. They collude together. They bridge together. And then finger rape the rest of us out of our wealth in authoritarian fashion. They destroy our property rights, but maintain theirs. You know, there's a right-wing talking point, and it's known as, socialism only it stops working when you run out of other people's money. Well, the issue is, economically speaking, that's true. Well, how do you think the billionaires do it? They have to rob us to keep themselves in a socialist, semi-socialistic setting and benefit from it and make it work. So they have to rape the rest of us to do it. It's the only way that it'll work. Period. Why do you think a lot of anarchists have noticed similarities between, like ANCAPs have noticed similarities between socialism and feudalism and shit? That's the pattern. For fuck's sakes, look at the fucking neo-feudalist shit. Look at what we live under. This corporatist, semi-socialistic world we live in. Yeah, Better Bachelors even acknowledge that we live in it. This technocracy, corporatist plutocracy, corporate plutocracy, corporatocracy, managerial elitism, elite theory, managerial capitalism, managerial socialism, technocracy, corporate feudalism, neo-feudalism. These are all just synonyms of the same fucking shit. And with that, I will put that up at the end of the video. And then it'll cut off. So I'll see you later in episode 2.